Hey guys, this is your Breakfast with the Brand. I am your host, Shaan East, as always, flanked by the phenomenal Bobby Jackson. Guys, listen, this is your Breakfast with the Brand. I hope you're ready for today. Like, I really, really hope that you're ready for today. And I know, guys, like everybody's like, it's a federal holiday. What are they doing? It's federal. Shaan, it's federal. It's not only federal, guys, it's phenomenal. Right? It's not only federal, it's phenomenal. And this is the regular energy in the room at all times. So, of course, I didn't have to show up. Of course, we didn't have to do the sales training this morning, but guess what we did this morning? Of course, I could have taken the day off, but guess what I didn't do? Why? Because my clients mean the most to me. The people that I serve mean the most to me. Right? My service is superior. My service is superior because I was told something when I was very young, when I began to really research life and research business and research purpose and passion. I realized that I was put on this planet to serve. I was put on this planet to help, to be of assistance, to help people be successful. And I take that service so seriously that yes, it's a federal holiday, but it's a phenomenal day and opportunity. Let's grow. That's how I feel this morning, Bobby. How you feeling, brother?
Equally phenomenal, coach. Equally phenomenal. I was laughing at the things being said on the back end, but I was getting some things executed on as we were getting started this morning, and everything is phenomenal. I'm looking forward to seeing what the market holds today. I've been on this certain number a day, collect, meaning put a certain number of value in the marketplace and make sure that value is in excess of the number that you're looking to collect. And that's been a different mindset. So, okay, it's a federal holiday. Okay, great. How much value can I pour into the marketplace today? And as I get better at this and I start doing it more and more and more, I'm learning to be more strategic, how to build up certain things so that it flows into the marketplace almost continuously. So I'm super excited. Like, business done right is extremely exciting in my experience.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Phenomenal morning, guys. We got a lot of people looking in. So let me just give a shout out, guys. We got a lot of people looking in on LinkedIn. We had a phenomenal episode on Saturday. A lot of people chimed in. A lot of people brought their coffee to the call, right? So LinkedIn, Instagram, we're on X. Oh, yes, we're on Instagram still. We're running on Instagram, believe it. We're on Facebook, multiple places, multiple times, and YouTube. Guys, so listen, I just want you to understand, like, you can have an idea. Every business begins with an idea. You can have an idea. And from that idea, you can create worlds of reality, worlds of possibility. You can literally take one idea, and manifest everything that you need to take care of everybody that you care about in your life. I just want to really impress that upon you this morning, because it's not only federal, it's phenomenal. Listen to me closely. You can take one idea and convert that base metal into a highly valuable substance and take care of every single person that you ever cared about in your life. This is the Breakfast with the Brand. We did not come to play with you. We'll be right back. There's slow growth, and then there's scale. There's incremental growth, and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 + 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 + 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 + 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 + 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence. Add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow. The reason why I did this and what I do is help leaders to become brands and brand themselves. You train people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. I teach authenticity marketing. If people can take advantage of you, they will in your personal or professional existence.
My biggest takeaway just from day one is you are the brand. I would recommend it to anybody that's really looking to build a personal brand.
Just the brand in general has changed my life. I've grown so much since I've been a part of this.
I see myself in what he does, and I believe in it just as much as I believe in myself.
Let's go. We are back, guys. We are back again. Super excited to be here. Super excited to serve once again. I want to get into some content, though. I want to kind of get into intentionality. So everybody, you know, there's this buzzword going around. Be intentional. Be intentional. But what does that really mean? Because a lot of people get caught up in the malarkey of the motivational mumbo jumbo, right? And I just want to be very clear, like there's nothing wrong with motivation, nothing wrong at all with motivation. As a matter of fact, I'm a strong proponent of motivation, contrary to belief. I've been told that I can be very motivational, very inspirational, and all of those good things, right? And you need motivation. Let me just say that real quick. You need motivation. You need it. But you also need a plan, for God's sakes. You also need a plan. After the motivation, you need a plan. And then you need discipline to execute on the plan. Just so that everybody's clear. Like, I don't bash motivation. You need motivation, but you need to be intentional as to what takes place when the motivation wears off. Because there will be moments where your motivation wanes. There will be moments when certain things take place in your life where you're like, I'm just taking punches right now. Like I'm just getting punched hard, consistently, and it's not stopping. And I don't see the stop anytime soon. It's like I'm in a line of punches. I feel like you're being jumped in California. Like it's just terrible. Like there is no stop. Like I figured it would be done after year one. What happens when you lose your breath? What happens when you lose your footing? What happens when you feel like you're losing your face in business? In business, they call it losing your shirt. And when the motivation wears off and it doesn't feel good anymore, the plan, the training is what kicks in. So it becomes responsive. And it just happens on autopilot because you had a plan. And because you had the discipline to stay the course. If you look at, and I'm a student of history. I have to be. Because if you're not a student of history, then you won't be successful. Let me just say that real quick. If you're not a student of history, then you won't be successful. You have to look at other people that made it where you're trying to go. And when I look at people that made it where I'm trying to go, they all said it felt like death getting here. Like I don't want to give you so much inspiration and motivation, right? But I just want to be realistic. They all said they had to die and transform themselves. They had to be born again. They lost everything. They couldn't understand the pain. They couldn't understand the loss. They couldn't understand why they were going through what they were going through. They didn't understand they had so many degrees and so much education and everything was just looking good last week. And then it turned into Hades on earth on full force. Family members were taken from them. Businesses went bankrupt. Clients defaulted en masse. en masse. And then we know what took place in 2020, the pandemic, for God's sakes. Like, people really, really went through it. And you will have to go through it in situations where nothing will make sense to you. Motivation will wear off. But that's when your plan kicks in. That's when your discipline kicks in. And you remember why you started in the first place. That's called being deliberate. That's called being intentional. And that's what makes phenomenal CEOs get up at the hour they do and perform the selfless service that they do day after day after day.
Man, this makes me think back to the many times that I have just felt empty energy-wise. Like, I felt like I gave so much time, mind, energy, enthusiasm, and I'm empty. But the calendar, or the schedule, so to speak, still has a gym session on it. And I'm like, ouch. It's on the calendar. When you're intentional, sometimes you might plan out 100 days. So you got so many days lined up. Sometimes you may plan out an entire quarter. That's not unheard of in the military space and in the business space, to have quarterly plans, right? And when you are that intentional about what you do, I have this one definition of discipline that I use. And it is, discipline is the doing of those things that have been predetermined as necessary, despite your preference for doing them. And oftentimes it's when we don't feel like doing it that it has to get done the most. So I'll share a very brief story of when I felt like just the most animalistic, beast, maniacal, strong individual in my life. And you will be surprised by this story. I was recovering from like a virus. I was recovering from rhabdo. I was recovering from a whole bunch of things. And all of this, just like Shaan said, hit me at one time. Clients defaulted on me. Everybody was just like, it was crazy. I couldn't understand it. My babysitter gone, all of it, same time. And I am beaten and bruised, walking home from the gym in the cold with my half a gallon of water jug, thinking to myself, you're a bad mother. Like, you got this going on, that going on, this going on, that going on, and you just put up massive weight and it's cold, and you're walking home as I'm picking out like this thing from my, wiping my nose as it's running, put it back in my pocket so I can clean it when I get to the house. I'm drinking water, and I'm just like, that's right. This is discipline. This is intentionality. And guys, I felt like crap. I felt sick to my stomach. My head was hurting. My eyes were red, but my character, my self-esteem, my understanding of who I am and my confidence was on like 2,000. So when I walked in the house and I still had a closing call to get on, I said, that's it. Took a ice bath, cold. Then got out of that mug. Like, you guys don't know what an ice bath feels like until you're already sick. Like, you're already cold. Your temperature is low. Your body hurts. You don't have like a regular body temperature. So once you get in an ice bath or like the cold shower and you're shivering getting in, it's something else, because you in that thing hurting and you try to get through it, and I'm getting through it. And then I got out and I closed the deal, guys. Hurting, sick, rhabdo, recovered, kids. And that's intentionality in my experience. It's like saying to myself from the beginning of the year what was going to happen February X, and come Hades high water, making sure it got done.
Very good. Very good, guys. So this is one of the reasons why it's a federal holiday, and it's still a phenomenal opportunity for me. I'm that guy that never took holidays. Like, I didn't recognize them on a business calendar when I had a corporate gig. Like, I didn't recognize holidays. It was all a phenomenal opportunity for me. Like, I don't do like sick days. I perform at a certain level of expectation of my own self because I have an intention. And it's not about me. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the people that I serve, which is why I'm here before you today. So I want to help you though, because when you're getting hit in business, bills, clients, responsibilities, tech, for God's sakes, they throw in AI. Just when you were trying to figure out IT, they throw in AI. And it's like, how much more could there possibly be? A lot more. Just let me give you an indication of what it looks like on this side. There's a lot more. And it doesn't stop. But this is the thing I want you to understand. You don't get motivation from looking forward at all the garbage that you have to go through to be successful. That's not where you get the kick start. Like that makes people tap out when they look at everything they have to go through. But I want to put something on the screen right now because we have a different mindset inside of the leadership leverage. So leadership leverage says to measure backwards for indications of capability. Measure backwards. Most of you are looking forward at when you'll be successful, everything you have to go through to be successful, where your bank account is, where it needs to be successful. But what I want to introduce to you today is to measure backwards and look at what you've been through. Look at how far you've come. And then when you look at how far you've come, because look, everybody says, 10x, but I want to introduce you to something like you've done 10x 10 times in your life. You've done 10x times. You've added a zero multiple times in your life. If you're like me, then hundreds of times in your life. You've deconstructed, reconstructed, broke down, rebuilt, overcome, succeeded in the face of irresistible, tumultuous situations that you never thought you could survive. This is a reality. What you've been through should give you an indication and an intention that what you're going through is possible. Whenever I need a kickstart, I look at where I came from. Whenever. I mean, I'm so serious. I'll be going through something and I'll be like, I got to take a trip. I'm going to go get a fish sandwich. And people around me that don't know, they'll be like, what do you mean fish sandwich? You must be going to the kitchen. No, I'm going to Harlem. I'm going to New York. I'm going to go to Harlem and I'm going to go get a fish sandwich from the old block where I grew up on. And I'm going to just look at where I came from. Sometimes you got to smell the salt. Sometimes you got to smell the asphalt. Sometimes you got to put your hand on the concrete and really remember where you came from. Because if you remember where you came from, then whatever you're going through in business or in your situation, it becomes so easy. It becomes so easy. It's a non-brainer. It's not even a hard situation. You laugh at the things that, sometimes we get caught up in it, Bobby. Sometimes we get caught up in the emotion and we're like, oh my God, it's such an onslaught that I don't know what to do and I can't take it. And sometimes we just shut down. But when you feel like shutting down, I want to tell you to use leadership leverage and look back. Look back at how far you've come. I don't know if you're finishing a doctorate right now. I don't know if you're trying to write your book right now. I don't know if you're struggling through tech disarray or systems and people, operations, revenue, all of the things that we have to battle with as a CEO. Culture, building a culture, getting the marketing right, building the brand the right way. These are all phenomenal, serious situations that we have to overcome. But if you look at what you've previously overcome, I guarantee you, this is not a hunch. This is not an opinion. This is evidence-based. This is fact. Everything I say is based on research and science. If you just pause for a moment and reflect, it's a huge thing in psychology called reflection. Reflection practice. Many people don't do it, and that's why they stop, and that's why they stumble, and that's why they settle. But if you can take a moment, if you can pause and be mindful, it requires mindful leadership. If you can be mindful and give yourself a present pause, a powerful presence pause, and reflect on what you've overcome, where you've really been, the things that were really hard that you've seen and overcome, then when you open your eyes again or cast your mind forward, everything in front of you will become that much easier. This is the Breakfast with the Brand. I want you to take a pause during this break. Just take a breath, because you're doing great. No matter where you are right now, you're doing phenomenally. And if you take that break and you take that pause to see how far you've come, then where you've got to go will be that much easier. Let's grow. It's very important that you know yourself to the highest degree possible, because it's through knowing ourselves that we're able to know other people. You are the most important person in the room, and the better that you know yourself, the better that you're able to communicate to others. So you're not only playing the game knowing who you are, but you're also playing the game knowing who everyone else is, so that you're not playing blind.
He's extremely engaging with people. He has a fantastic smile, and he's just very high energy person.
This is called leadership development. So we have to be independently knowledgeable and considerate to know who we are, so we can more effectively know who other people are. As the leader, it's your responsibility to allocate resources in the right places. If you don't know how to communicate effectively, you're losing the battle. I said Shaan Rais. I'm proud. I said Shaan Rais. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and you know, game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes. Talk about that reflective practice, Bobby, in your growth, in your development, in your process here inside of the Leadership Leverage. Just talk about like how powerful it was for you to take a look back at how far you've come when you had to take a look forward at how much more you had to run through.
Yeah. One of the more comical things that comes to mind is my voice. So the voice that many of you all are hearing today was much more high pitched years ago. And it was because I wasn't speaking from my diaphragm. I wasn't speaking from my register, my resonance. And a lot of us tend to do that. We tend to have these voices that we've adopted, these pitches that have become acceptable by the people that we oftentimes communicate with, be it superiors, parents, what have you. So looking back on the older courses that I went through, from Branded Like a Leader to Coaching Like a Leader to Closing Like a Leader, if you go through each of them, it's almost as if my voice gets a little bit deeper each course. And it's almost like my word choice, sentence structure, and delivery gets a little bit more articulate, confident, and assertive. So for me, this experience has been one of discovery, because many of you all, like me, may have been called things that you weren't so often that you began to believe it. You might have been called, say, ADHD. You might have been called talkative. You might have been called a troublemaker. And when they call you these things and they say them over and over again, and then your grades don't necessarily line up with your intellect, you start to believe certain things. So for me, looking back was a lot. It was as much as a discovery process of becoming who I am, but it was also a reestablishment of my confidence. Because as you're going through the storms and as you're going through the trials and the tribulations, it's almost like you're getting hit with different things. And these different things are chipping away parts of you. And if you have created an identity that identifies with the parts of you that are being chipped away, you may feel like you're being chipped away. You're disappearing, when in actuality, it's the parts of you that just aren't you. They were never meant to be there. There's this great book that puts it this way: the Creator didn't give you a spirit of fear, but one of power and soundness of mind. If we're anxious and we're all over the place and we're fearful and we're acting as if we can't control our own circumstances, like, those things aren't really us, if you were to appreciate that bit of insight. So for me, another indication, as I grew and scaled the business by 400% revenue growth for 3 consecutive years, I had to look back each year to see what was happening each year. And I said, okay, the first year that we did the 400% revenue growth, I had to take a leap of faith, invest all that I had, and learn more than I thought I could ever know in such a short amount of time. Like, the amount of information consumed in a 12-month span, I just thought was unfathomable. So I took that same approach into the next year. And what I found was that by looking back on all that I was able to consume the prior year, all I was able to invest the prior year, and all I was able to do despite my fears, I said, okay, maybe I can do it again. And lo and behold, it happened again and again. So I say to you guys, as I wrap up and turn it back over to Shaan here, is what have you been able to do? And I'll really talk to the service members for a bit, then talk to the collegiate mass for a bit, very succinctly. If you've gotten the next rank year after year after year, that's a testament. Go ahead and take a look at that. Like, you went from E1, E2, E3, E4 on up. If you took the officer route, O1, O2, O3 on up. And if you took the college route, you went from associates potentially to bachelors to masters to multiple masters to doctorate and so on. And that is just an indication of what you're capable of. And the interesting thing is, it always tends to take the same level because you're a new version of you. So, like, to get the doctorate feels just as hard as potentially getting the master's. Granted, I don't have a doctorate, but I would assume the course load and the demand of the new version of you is going to be completely required in order for you to create the next version of you. So I think it's a very interesting process when we're reflective about our growth.
He said, what was the last thing you said, Bobby? I want to get the words correctly. What was the last thing you said? Creating the next version of you. I know we don't script here, but what was the last thing you said about producing? So it takes what it takes in the current version to get to your next version.
Yeah.
Something like that. I want you guys to look at this real quick. The sculpture is already complete within the marble's block before I start my work. This is Michelangelo, by the way. Michelangelo created David. But in order for him to create David, he had to remove the excess marble. So while you're going through what you're going through in business and life, superfluous material is being removed from you. Share this out, guys. Like, share this out. If you're on LinkedIn watching this, share this out, because another CEO, another business owner, another key executive, someone who maybe just lost their job needs to hear this. It is through loss that we gain. It is through pain that we prosper. This is how we earn our wings in business, or earn those zeros. When I say add a zero, that zero has to be earned. You can't just say, we're going to go from $5,000 to $50,000. We're just going to put another zero on it. It is a transformative process, and that transformative process is very akin to Michelangelo carving David out. What he said, and I'm looking at this right now, what he said was, I had to free David. He said, I saw the angel in the marble. I saw the angel in the marble, and I had to free David. So as you're going through what you're going through in your business, I don't care where it is that you're at, because everybody has to go through these levels. If you're at 4 figures or no figures, how do you get to 4 figures? Like your first $1,000. I can remember my first $10,000. I can remember my first $10,000 deal, and I can remember my first $10,000 month. Matter of fact, my first $10,000 deal was my first $10,000. I want you guys to understand, like, the pain is freeing. The confusion, you have to go through it. The best thing that you could possibly do, though, is hook your carriage up to those who have been there before. That's the best advice that I could give you. Like, find a guide. If someone wants to go to the top of, I don't care if it's Mount Rushmore, Mount Kilimanjaro, I'm going to say grab a Sherpa, pay for a Sherpa, get somebody to guide you, get someone who's been to the summit before, so that you don't die up there. And I guarantee you, you're going to have motivation. You're going to be motivated at the bottom. Before you begin to climb, you're going to be extremely motivated. Like, we're going to do this, and we're going to get up there, and we're going to get to the top, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be phenomenal. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to free the people. I'm going to take my mother out of her home. I'm going to put her into this. I'm going to move my family over here, and we're going to go from this car to this car, from this tax bracket to that tax bracket. And then the reality hits around the first 100, 200, 300 feet of that ascent, and the language changes or the oxygen changes, and you have to breathe differently. That's why Bobby's voice changed, because every time he goes higher, a couple zeros, the air up here is thinned, and it requires you to dig deeply for oxygen, because more is required here than at the bottom. More is required in your master's program than in your associates. More is required to become a 7-figure earner than a 5-figure earner. More is required to become a successful entrepreneur than a successful employee. It's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. There'd be no employees. I want to say this. I want you to accept it the right way. But who would sweep the floor? Who would sweep the floor if everybody was the CEO, the successful CEO, overnight, and everybody did 450K in less than 90 days? Your process is your process. Your marble is your marble. And your pain is expected. So expect it. It's supposed to be there. Motivation wears off. You must have an idea. You must have a plan. And you must execute that plan with superior discipline and vision. When these artists begin to create, When these phenomenal CEOs begin to build, nobody knows what they're building. Nobody knows what their vision is. Sometimes we don't even know what the vision is ourselves. I have recreated this business so many times. I have added programs that I didn't know I needed. I have added people that I didn't know I needed. And every time I did it, it required more and more pressure. More and more pressure, which means more and more pain. Think about a muscle. Think about a muscle. One of my first certifications was personal fitness trainer and nutritional specialist. Think about a muscle. So when I say it, it's not motivational hyperbole. It's evidence-based. This is a fact. You cannot build a muscle without tearing it and ripping it. As a matter of fact, muscle fibers build where former muscle was torn, with no tearing, with no scarring. There is no growing. You will not grow if there's no pain. I say this in my first book, The 7 Prerequisites to Success. I say sometimes it'll be 4 o'clock in the morning and the child will scream out in pain. The baby. Newborn mothers know what I'm talking about. Newborn fathers, they know what I'm talking about. Because they'll finally get the child to sleep and they'll go to bed, and an hour later, the child just screams. But why is he screaming? He's screaming because growth is painful. I'm going to end right here on that before we go to the break. I just want you to think and know and feel comfort in the fact that if you're feeling pain right now, it's because you're growing. Growth is painful. It is to be expected. So expect it and accept it. Let's grow. Business is like a game of chess. It's not checkers. If you don't know how to lead with a personal brand, then you're losing the battle.
Everything about Shaan's talk was fantastic. I mean, I got so much from it.
So he was really bringing fire and passion and just love and spirit to let everybody else know how do you become a leader amongst the leaders.
You hold the key in your hand. There is more power in this phone than there was that took the first man to the moon.
His energy, his dynamic information, gave a really great presentation.
I didn't ask for any money. I didn't have an offer. I had a heart to help people and meet them where they were at and find their need and fulfill it.
Shaan is the bomb.
I don't talk theory. I don't talk hyperbole. I don't talk opinion. Nothing I talk is anything but evidence-based.
During the G-Circle retreat in Atlanta, I had the pleasure and the honor of listening to Mr. Shaan Rais. He will not only impact your organization, but he will elevate your team to another level.
When you change you, when you put you into the equation, the whole system is different. I guarantee you, you got the right thing. You are the right person. If you can present yourself in the best way possible, there's no negotiation.
His energy is infectious, and I have so many takeaways from the presentation that I can't wait to get started and implement them today to see the result.
What you're looking at right now is the new face of leadership. I chose to go the route of SOE, standards of excellence. So I help people put zeros behind their numbers. I help people move up in or out of their organization and get paid their annual income monthly, their monthly income weekly, and their weekly income daily. I promise you, if you follow me at all, you're gonna wanna use something to write with. CSA first, CSA. Clarify, simplify, and amplify. Clarify, simplify, and amplify. It starts with a decision. Who do you wanna be and what do you wanna do? Who do you wanna be? You have to define that. If you don't know, then it's vague and it'll never be clear. The problem that we have is clarity. We walk into an organization happy to be there, happy that they accepted us, but we don't have a clear goal. That's why people stay in the same organization year after year after year, go to the same vacation spots with the same people and talk the same amount of nonsense around the same water cooler. So when I go into an organization and someone says they've been here for 20 years and they're still around $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, I'm like, whew, It's chilly. It's a little bit cold when I know that all it takes for you to raise your prices, whether it's inside or outside of an organization, is self-belief and dedication. Brand you and not what you do. So when I meet people, I ask people, tell me a little bit about yourself, and they immediately tell me what they do. That's not who you are. Branding is who you are. Marketing is how people find out about you. So when you say, I'm a photographer, you just lumped yourself in with a million other photographers. What's special about you? Why should I work with you? I don't need a hand with a camera. I need a man with a story. A woman with a goal, a vision. Someone with an idea of what they want to be and who they want to impact in their lives. That's what moves me. We know where we belong, whether we're in that seat or not. We heard the word legacy and we were pulled to come. I flew in last minute. Let's go. Leadership, legacy, love. Whew. I gotta be there. So what happens in marketing is when you say, I am you put yourself in what we call a red sea. You're now fighting against a million competitors with a million different things. Clarify. Who are you? What do you stand for? And then simplify it. Don't make it 10 things. Bruce Lee said, I do not fear the man who has thrown 10,000 kicks. He says, I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. You can have the most mouth-watering steak that the world has ever seen, but if you try to position it or place it in a vegan neighborhood, you make no money. Who are you trying to market to? Sometimes we don't support each other. Sometimes you got to go outside of your community, outside of your neighborhood, outside of your phone book to find someone who will support you. So if your business is hurting, think about the place that you're trying to move, whatever it is that you're moving, and the people that you're trying to sell to. You want to become the OVO. The OVO is the only viable option in your vertical. The only viable option in your vertical. We're not here for competition. We're here for domination. We're here for domination. Period. And if you feel differently, you're probably in the wrong room. Is anybody ready for the fifth one? Are you ready for the fifth one? Might want to capture this. Might want to capture this. For God's sakes, man, your prices. Your prices. We should stand out because of price. Some people look for the lowest price. You're making a big mistake because you're defining yourself. Your success comes from mindset and perception. If you're competing over the lowest price, there's a problem. Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands. Train people. I'm going to leave you with this. We train people how to treat us when we meet us based on how we treat ourselves. Brand you and not what you do. Thank you. Guys, I want you to understand something. At the time of that speech that I gave, things were taking place in my personal life that were unbelievable. When I say loss, when I say pain, when I say uncertainty and lack of clarity, that was one of the hardest moments in my personal and professional life. But I showed up, and you probably couldn't tell. you probably couldn't tell because that's not your business. That's my business. And I separate my business from my presentation and my performance because I'm a professional. I don't care where you're at in your business right now. You are a professional. And David is being created right now out of you. It's coming out of you. It's the hard parts. It's the things that keep you up at night. It's the things that make it hard for you to sleep at night, hard for you to look at your family sometimes because you don't know how it's going to turn out. That's the David part. It's being created. I believe that we are chess pieces, And there's a bigger hand at play than how you personally feel about it. So again, I'm going to remind you that profitability, which most people say, I need money, I need to monetize. Yeah, that's great. Sounds good. Get comfortable. But I'm going to tell you is this: profitability exists at the intersection of passion and purpose. Find out what you're passionate about. Be extremely purposeful and intentional in your actions. And understand this: after motivation, you better have a plan and you better have some discipline.
You know, many people don't know this, but some of you all do. So I'll go ahead and share this very interesting insight about how you can create David, or how most people go about getting it done. So I was an artist in the past, and I am a Gemini's Gemini, so to speak, meaning I'm an extreme creative, I'm an extreme communicator, I am an extreme inquisitive natured individual, like a Gemini's Gemini. And I like to draw, I like to paint. And here's something that I want to, just give you guys to think about if you're an artist of any kind. Sketch circles into faces. Sketch circles into faces. And what this means is when we're drawing and when we're sketching, what we start with are just circles and more circles, and then circles in the left and circles in the right. If you're really skilled at this, you may have a perpendicular line there, like one line going down and one line going across, kind of setting up the proportions of the face. But to the outside individual looking in, you just got shapes and lines. You got shapes and lines. But to the intentional, deliberate, focused, envisioning, like consistent worker of the pencil, what you are doing in actuality is a process of adding and subtracting, adding and subtracting. Anyone that's ever drawn anything or been in the studio, like we'll have these things called ad libs or these things called dubs. In the studio, that's simply where you lay a verse and you lay the vocal and then you lay the vocal again and you stack the vocal on top of each other. So when it is heard over the audio, it's just that much thicker. So all we're really doing is adding things and subtracting them. But when you hear it raw, it's just like, what is that? No one ever hears it raw over the radio. They hear a bunch of addition and subtraction. So what I want to encourage you all to do is put some shapes on the paper. Don't be afraid to throw some squares where you feel like a square might belong. Don't be afraid to throw some cylinders where you feel like a cylinder may belong. It might not look like the muscular curved leg, knee, and ankle that you want it to be out of the gate. But if you hold the vision and you throw in those shapes and you keep the proportions. Now, this piece I think is pretty profound. It just came to me. There is, what do they say? Form follows function. And if you function properly, things will form themselves. So what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to see the vision and allow your morals, values, and principles to hold the form. Meaning, inside of you, there is this guiding principle of what's right. You know what you should be doing with your life. You have a calling, right? And then you know what your gifts are. So the form that follows the function. So when you have your morals, values, and principles and you function according to those, the form will come out of it. The gifts, when aligned with the proper morals, values, and principles, take shape. And that's what you're doing when you're sketching. You're allowing that within you, according to your highest convictions, to take shape through you. And that's what artists do when we're drawing things and when we're creating things and when we're making music. So I'll end with this. The process that I went through and that I often would go through when I wrote poetry, lyrics, drew paintings, or drew with paper, it would be this very similar and same process. I would start the vision, an idea, like a vision. And then I would hold that vision and I would let it marinate. I would let it become a part of me. And then I would begin to throw things on the canvas, be it the audio or the paper or the actual canvas itself. And then I would begin to refine, all the while holding the vision. And then I would begin to feel or color, fill it in. And then I would begin to finish, adding the finishing touches, blending, or adding the final layers of whatever you're doing. And once you finish it, it's done. So it really can be thought of as that simple. But as you go through that process, of course, things are going to get on your canvas. Things are going to pop into your head. Your hands are going to get tired. And you just got to weather the storm. But I just wanted to leave that with you guys. Anybody that's building something, sculpting something, it can be a lot of fun.
Very good. Very good. Guys, you're creating something, right? You're the creator. You're the sculptor. You're Michelangelo, and no one else can see David. That's the beautiful part. Like no one, it looks like you're just making a mess, but no one else knows what you're creating except other creators. They can't see your exact vision, but they can encourage you because they're creators themselves. And they know what it looks like. They also, this is the most beautiful part, they know what it feels like. And if you want to create, let's say, a David, then you can't use granite. And it takes someone who has created something similar to a David to let you know, Michelangelo, that you need to use marble. And you need to use a chisel, not a hammer. This is where coaches and mentors are needed to help you get there quicker, because you can go through 5 different elements until you realize 5 years later that to create what you're trying to create, you need marble. You don't need stone. And it takes someone who's educated, experienced, and an expert in what you're trying to create to help you save time and money. Most of us have a cost mindset instead of an investment mindset. We say, oh no, what's that going to cost? I don't know how much it costs. That costs too much. It sounds like it's too much, but you don't realize that it costs so much more to fail and to figure it out on your own and to learn from hard experience when you could have just saved time, brought in a professional, and realized from day one you need to use marble. You're not going to create what you're trying to create with stone. You're not going to create what you're trying to create with brick. It doesn't chip away the same. And if you use a hammer instead of a chisel, you're not going to be able to form the eyes the right way. So you can make yourself tired and work harder and harder and harder and harder and harder, going in the wrong direction. Or you can make an investment on how to learn how to really do it the right way so you don't break something in the process and you can get where you're trying to get a lot faster and for a lot less money. And that's what programs like Branded Like a Leader do. That's what communities like the Leadership Leverage do. That's what we're trying to give you an indication of for free. You need mindset shifts. You need to understand the processes that you're going through while you're trying to build something, while you're trying to build your art, while you're trying to build your artwork, your heart work. If you don't have a vision and you don't know what it takes to get up here, if you don't have a Sherpa, let me tell you, people die on those hills.
Yeah.
People die on those hills. That's where a lot of great ideas are laid to rest because they didn't understand the power of investing. They said, I'm going to go it alone, fearlessly. They said, I'm good. I got this. I know what I need to do. And as the air got thinner and their lungs got weaker, they began to fall off and drop off. And we want you to be successful. So that's why we support you every single day, day after day, week after week, month after month. And now it's been year after year. So tomorrow, 7 a.m., We know exactly where we will be because we're intentional and because selfless service is the name of the game. The question is, where will you be and how much further will you have gotten? Let's grow. This is the Breakfast with the Brand.